If stories filled with shocking twists, emotional family moments, and unforgettable romance are your favorite, you're in the right place. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Now get comfortable, because this story begins with one small child doing something that changed a billionaire's life forever. The glass of water crashed onto the marble floor. "No! Stop him!" one of the nurses screamed. 3-year-old Lwazi burst through the open bedroom door, his tiny feet racing across the polished floor before anyone could catch him. "Young man," another caregiver shouted, "get away from Mr. Kang!" But Lwazi ignored every adult in the room. Instead, he climbed onto the enormous bed where Kang Ji-hoon lay motionless, his body stiff beneath a gray blanket. The billionaire's sharp eyes narrowed. "What is this?" His cold voice echoed through the room. "Whose child is this?" A terrified woman appeared at the doorway, completely out of breath. "Lwazi!" Naledi Dlamini grabbed her son into her arms. "I'm so sorry, sir." I looked away for 1 second. Ji-hoon's expression hardened. "I hired a maid." "I didn't hire a daycare." Naledi lowered her head. "I understand." "You understand?" His voice became even colder. "Then explain why your child is climbing on a man who cannot even push him away." The room fell silent. Every nurse expected the young maid to cry or beg. Instead, she held her son close and spoke calmly. "I had no one to leave him with." Ji-hoon laughed bitterly. "Not my problem." Naledi swallowed the lump in her throat. She had arrived in Seoul 4 years earlier from South Africa with dreams of building a better future. Instead, life had given her endless hospital bills after her husband died in a construction accident. Now every paycheck mattered. Losing this job would destroy everything. "I'll make sure it never happens again." Ji-hoon looked toward his lawyer. "Pay her 1 week's salary, then send her away." Naledi froze. The words hit harder than she expected. "Sir, please. I said leave." Little Lwazi suddenly leaned forward from his mother's arms. He stared directly at Ji-hoon. Then, with complete innocence, he stretched out his tiny hand. "Hello?" Everyone blinked. Ji-hoon didn't move. The child smiled anyway. "I'm Lwazi." No response. "My mama says when someone is sad, we say hello." One nurse quickly whispered, "Take him outside." Before Naledi could react, Lwazi gently touched Ji-hoon's hand. The billionaire expected to feel nothing. Instead, something warm spread through the cold emptiness that had consumed him for months. It wasn't his body, it was his heart. He couldn't remember the last time anyone had touched him without fear, obligation, or pity. Lwazi grinned. "You have big hands." A faint chuckle escaped one of the older housekeepers before she covered her mouth. Ji-hoon's icy stare returned instantly. "Everyone out." The room emptied within seconds. Only Ji-hoon, Naledi, and the little boy remained. "You should already be gone." Naledi nodded. "I know. But before I leave," she looked him in the eyes. "I want to thank you." Ji-hoon frowned. "For firing me? For giving me a chance?" He wasn't expecting that answer. "You don't owe me gratitude. You opened your home. You paid more in 1 day than my last employer paid in a week. I won't pretend that doesn't matter." Ji-hoon looked away. People usually cursed him when things didn't go their way. She thanked him. It irritated him for reasons he couldn't explain. Lwazi suddenly pointed toward the wheelchair beside the bed. "Does it hurt?" Naledi quickly whispered. "Lwazi?" But Ji-hoon answered. "No." The child tilted his head. "Then why don't you stand up?" The room became painfully quiet. Naledi's face turned pale. "I'm so sorry. I've told him not to. It's fine." Ji-hoon's voice had become strangely calm. "My legs don't work." Lwazi frowned as if trying to solve a difficult puzzle. "My mommy says God fixes broken things." Ji-hoon almost laughed. "Does he?" The boy nodded confidently. "Yes." Another silence settled over the room. Finally, Ji-hoon looked at Naledi. "How old is he?" 3. "He talks too much." Naledi smiled awkwardly. He gets that from me. For reasons he couldn't explain, Ji-hoon didn't ask them to leave again. Instead, he asked, "Can you cook?" "Yes." "Clean?" "Yes." "Follow instructions?" "Always." He stared at Lwazi. "The child stays downstairs. No running through the house. No entering my room. No touching expensive things." Naledi blinked. "Does that mean you still have the job?" Her eyes instantly filled with tears. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. If your son breaks anything, he won't. We'll see." As they left the room, the elderly housekeeper smiled to herself. In 6 months, Ji-hoon had fired 23 nurses, 7 physical therapists, 4 assistants, and 12 maids. Yet somehow, a little boy had lasted 5 minutes. That evening, the mansion returned to its usual silence. Ji-hoon stared through the bedroom window at the rain. Before the accident, silence had been a luxury. Now it felt like prison. His phone buzzed. It was another message from his former fiancée. She wasn't asking about his health. She wanted confirmation that the engagement gifts legally belonged to her. Ji-hoon deleted the message without replying. Another notification appeared. His cousin, Min-suk. "Board meeting tomorrow. Since you're unable to attend, I'll handle the voting. Don't worry about the company." Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. He knew exactly what that meant. His cousin wasn't protecting the company. He was slowly stealing it. The bedroom door creaked open. Ji-hoon frowned. "I thought I said no interruptions." A tiny voice answered. "I didn't interrupt." Lwazi stood there holding something behind his back. Naledi rushed after him. "Lwazi, I told you." Ji-hoon sighed. "What now?" The little boy slowly revealed a badly drawn picture made with crayons. One stick figure sat in a wheelchair. Another tiny stick figure stood beside it, holding a balloon. Above them was one crooked word: friend. Lwazi stretched out the drawing with both hands. "This is for you." Ji-hoon stared at the picture. Nobody had ever given him something that wasn't expecting anything in return. His fingers couldn't move enough to take it. Without saying a word, Naledi carefully placed the drawing on his bedside table. Neither of them noticed the security camera in the hallway. Far away in another wing of the mansion, Min-suk watched the footage on his tablet. His smile slowly disappeared. "So, the maid and her son are getting close to him already." He leaned back in his chair. That could become a problem. Then he picked up his phone. "Find out everything about Naledi Dlamini. I want to know why she came to Korea, and whether she has a price." Lwazi woke before sunrise. While Naledi prepared breakfast in the mansion's kitchen, the little boy quietly carried 2 slices of toast on a tiny plate. One of the housekeepers spotted him. "Where are you going?" "To my friend." "You can't go upstairs. He gets lonely." The elderly housekeeper smiled sadly. "He does." She gently opened the elevator for him. "Go on. I'll take the blame." A few moments later, Ji-hoon heard a soft knock. "Come in," he said impatiently, assuming it was another therapist. Instead, Lwazi peeked around the door. "I brought breakfast." Ji-hoon stared at the uneven toast. "It's cold." "I know. I dropped it." For the first time in months, the corner of Ji-hoon's mouth lifted ever so slightly. "You shouldn't be here." "I know. Your mother told you that?" The boy nodded. "But lonely people need breakfast too." Ji-hoon looked away before anyone could notice the emotion in his eyes. No one had visited him simply because they wanted to. Every person who entered his room came with a duty, a paycheck, or an agenda. Lwazi came because he thought a lonely man needed company. A knock interrupted them. Naledi stepped inside, visibly nervous. "I'm so sorry, sir. I turned around for 1 minute and he brought me breakfast." She froze. "I'm sorry?" "He brought me breakfast." And Naledi looked from the toast to her son. "Lwazi, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to break the rules." Ji-hoon surprised both of them. "It's fine." Naledi blinked. "It is? Just don't make it a habit." Lwazi grinned. "I can bring lunch instead." Ji-hoon sighed. You negotiate too much for someone your size." The room filled with quiet laughter. Outside the partially closed door, one of the nurses frowned. "I've never heard Mr. Kang joke before." Neither had anyone else. Later that afternoon, Ji-hoon's physical therapist arrived with another rehabilitation schedule. "We need to continue your muscle stimulation exercises." "I'm not interested. You've skipped 3 sessions." I said no. The therapist tried again. "Your condition could improve if..." "It won't." The room fell silent. Ji-hoon's voice became heavy. "I spent 8 months listening to promises. You'll recover. You'll walk again. Have hope. I'm tired of lies." He turned his face toward the window. "Cancel every appointment." The therapist sighed before leaving. Naledi had heard everything from the hallway. That evening, she found Ji-hoon staring into the darkness. She quietly replaced the untouched dinner on the bedside table. "You didn't eat." "I'm not hungry." "You've said that for 3 days. It isn't your concern." She hesitated before speaking. "My husband used to say the same thing." Ji-hoon looked at her. He believed if he ignored pain, it would disappear. It didn't. Naledi smiled sadly. It only made him suffer alone. Ji-hoon's eyes softened slightly. "You were married. For 5 years. What happened?" She took a slow breath. "He died." Silence. "There was an accident at the construction site." "Lwazi was only a baby." Ji-hoon didn't know what to say. "I'm sorry. It took me a long time to stop asking why." She looked directly at him. "But eventually, I realized life doesn't always answer our questions. Sometimes it only asks whether we'll keep going." Those words lingered long after she left. Downstairs, Min-suk entered the mansion wearing an expensive suit and an even more expensive smile. He greeted every employee warmly. The moment he stepped into his private office, the smile vanished. One of his men handed him a file. "Everything we found on the Maid." Min-suk flipped through it. Single mother. South African. No criminal record. Debt. His eyes stopped on one page. Hospital bills. He smiled. "So, she needs money." His assistant nodded. "Very badly." "Perfect." The following morning, Naledi received a phone call requesting that she report to Min-suk's office. She knocked cautiously. "You wanted to see me?" "Please." He gestured toward a chair. "Sit." "I prefer to stand." He chuckled. "I've heard wonderful things. Mr. Kang hasn't fired you. I simply do my job." "You do much more than that." He slid an envelope across the desk. Naledi didn't touch it. "What's this?" "A gift." "I don't accept gifts." "Open it." Inside was enough cash to pay nearly all her outstanding debts. Her breathing stopped. Min-suk watched carefully. "Beautiful, isn't it? What do you want?" He smiled wider. "Nothing difficult. Just tell me everything Ji-hoon says." He doesn't say much. When doctors visit, when lawyers visit, when board members call. Simple conversations. Naledi slowly pushed the envelope back. "I can't." "You can." "I won't." His smile disappeared. "Think carefully. My son deserves better than money earned through betrayal." Min-suk leaned closer. "Children also deserve food." Naledi stood. "My son eats because I work honestly." She walked toward the door. His final words followed her. "You'll regret refusing me." She didn't answer. But outside, her hands were shaking. That evening, Ji-hoon noticed she seemed distracted. Something happened. She forced a smile. "I'm fine. I know what fine looks like." "That isn't it." She hesitated. "Your cousin spoke to me." Ji-hoon's eyes darkened immediately. "What did he want?" "He offered me money." "For?" "To spy on you." Ji-hoon remained silent. "I refused." He stared at her for several seconds. "You could have accepted." "I know." "You need the money." "I do." "So why didn't you?" Naledi answered without hesitation. "My father always told me something. Poverty isn't shameful. Selling your integrity is. Selling your integrity is." Ji-hoon looked away. He had spent years surrounded by executives who sold their loyalty to the highest bidder. Yet the woman struggling to pay rent had just refused a fortune. For the first time in years, he trusted someone. The next morning, Ji-hoon's lawyer rushed into the mansion. "They're forcing another board vote." Ji-hoon's expression hardened. "When?" "This afternoon. They're using your medical condition to declare you permanently unfit." Ji-hoon's heart pounded. "If they succeed, you lose controlling interest in Kang Group." Across the room, Lwazi looked up from his toy blocks. "Why are they taking your company?" Ji-hoon gave a bitter smile. "Because they think I can't fight back." The little boy walked over and placed one tiny hand on Ji-hoon's arm. "My mommy says brave people fight, even when they're scared." Those simple words settled over the room. Ji-hoon looked toward the rehabilitation equipment gathering dust in the corner. For months, he had refused to touch it. He had convinced himself there was no point. Now, for the first time, he wasn't thinking about proving the doctors right. He wasn't thinking about saving his company. He was thinking about keeping a promise to one little boy who believed he could do impossible things. He turned toward his therapist, who had just arrived. "Set up the equipment." The therapist stared at him in disbelief. "You mean, now?" Ji-hoon's eyes filled with determination. "Now." As the machines powered on for the first time in weeks, neither Ji-hoon nor Naledi noticed the tiny blinking camera hidden inside a flower arrangement near the door. Miles away, Min-seok watched the live feed. His confident smile slowly faded. "So, you're finally choosing to fight." He picked up his phone and gave a chilling order. If rehabilitation gives him hope, then destroy the reason he still has it. His assistant hesitated. "You mean?" Min-seok's voice turned ice cold. "The little boy. Make it look like an accident." Naledi's phone slipped from her hand. It hit the kitchen floor with a loud crack. "Lwazi?" There was no answer. She ran through the mansion. "Lwazi!" The housekeepers looked up in alarm. "What happened?" "I can't find him." Every hallway echoed with her desperate voice. The security guards immediately spread out. Ji-hoon heard the commotion from upstairs. "What is going on?" His nurse rushed into the room. "The little boy is missing." Ji-hoon's heart pounded. "What?" "They think he wandered outside." "No." Ji-hoon's voice was firm. "He wouldn't leave without telling me." He looked toward the security monitor mounted on the wall. The cameras. Within seconds, the head of security pulled up the footage. Everyone watched in silence. There was Lwazi walking down the hallway, carrying his favorite toy car. Then another angle showed a maintenance worker smiling at him. The man pointed toward the rehabilitation wing. Lwazi followed him without hesitation. Naledi gasped. "I've never seen that man before." The head of security froze the image. "I haven't either." Ji-hoon's eyes became dangerously cold. "Zoom in." The fake maintenance badge looked convincing. Too convincing. "That's not one of ours." Before anyone could react, another camera appeared on the screen. The stranger reached for Lwazi's hand. The little boy stepped back. Even at 3 years old, something felt wrong. He clutched his toy tighter. "My mommy says I don't go with strangers." The man smiled. "Your mommy sent me." Lwazi shook his head. "You're lying." The stranger's smile disappeared. He grabbed the little boy by the arm. Naledi screamed. "Lwazi!" Ji-hoon's entire body trembled with rage. "Lock every exit." The head of security grabbed his radio. "Seal the mansion. Nobody leaves." The mansion erupted into chaos. Guards rushed through the corridors. Vehicles blocked the front gate. The fake maintenance worker dragged Lwazi toward a service elevator. "Let me go! My mommy!" The child's cries echoed through the hallway. The man covered his mouth. Just as the elevator doors began to close, an alarm exploded throughout the building. Red emergency lights flashed. The elevator froze between floors. "What happened?" the kidnapper shouted. In the control room, an elderly engineer stared at the monitors. "I didn't trigger that." Upstairs, Ji-hoon looked at the emergency control panel beside his bed. The button was nearly a meter away, impossible to reach. His breathing became heavy. No, his fingers twitched, just slightly. His arm shook violently as he fought against months of paralysis. The nurse watched in disbelief. Mr. Kang. Every muscle screamed in protest. His shoulder moved. Only a few centimeters, but it was enough. His hand slammed onto the emergency switch. The alarm had been triggered. The room fell silent. The therapist's eyes filled with tears. He moved. He actually moved. Ji-hoon didn't care. Fined. He struggled to breathe. Lwazi. Security officers forced open the stalled elevator. The kidnapper tried to escape through the emergency hatch. He never made it. 4 guards tackled him to the ground. Lwazi burst into tears the moment he saw his mother. "Mama!" Naledi dropped to her knees and wrapped both arms around him. "I've got you. I'm here. I'm here." The little boy buried his face against her shoulder. "He said you wanted me." "I knew you didn't," Naledi cried openly. "I'm so proud of you. You remembered." Ji-hoon arrived moments later in his wheelchair, pushed by 2 attendants. The instant Lwazi saw him, he smiled through his tears. "I told him no." Ji-hoon's voice cracked. "You were very brave." The little boy nodded proudly. "I protected myself. And my friend." Ji-hoon closed his eyes for a moment. No board meeting? No billion-dollar contract? No business victory had ever made him feel what he felt in that moment. The police arrested the kidnapper within the hour. At first, the man refused to speak. But detectives eventually discovered large cash transfers into his account. Ji-hoon's lawyer placed the report on his lap. The money came through several shell companies. Ji-hoon looked up. "My cousin." "We can't prove it yet. We will." Across town, Min-sok slammed his fist onto his desk. How did they stop the elevator? His assistant swallowed nervously. "The emergency alarm." "I know that." "What triggered it?" "We don't know." Min-sok stared silently. Then another call came in. "What?" The person on the other end spoke rapidly. His face turned pale. "He moved?" The assistant looked confused. "Who?" "Ji-hoon. They're saying he moved his arm." The room became deathly quiet. Min-sok slowly lowered the phone. "No, that's impossible." The next morning, Ji-hoon's neurologist entered the mansion with a team of specialists. After hours of testing, none of them could hide their excitement. "This is remarkable." Ji-hoon remained calm. "Tell me the truth." One doctor smiled. "The neural response we saw yesterday wasn't random. You've regained voluntary movement." Naledi covered her mouth. The therapist laughed in disbelief. Months of no progress. And suddenly, the doctor nodded. "We finally have something to build on." Ji-hoon looked toward Lwazi, who was coloring on the living room floor. The little boy looked up. "Can you walk now?" Ji-hoon smiled softly. "Not yet, but I'm going to try." For the first time since the accident, he believed those words himself. Days turned into weeks. The mansion slowly transformed. Instead of arguments between doctors and their stubborn patient, laughter echoed through the rehabilitation room. Lwazi insisted on being the coach. "Again? You lifted it. Do it again." Even the therapists began laughing. Ji-hoon completed exercise after exercise, refusing to quit. Every tiny improvement became another celebration. One afternoon, after an exhausting session, he managed to lift a cup by himself. The entire room applauded. Lwazi clapped the loudest. "I knew you could do it." Ji-hoon chuckled. "I had a very demanding coach." Naledi watched quietly from the doorway. She wasn't looking at the cup. She was looking at the man. The bitterness that once consumed him was disappearing. In its place stood someone kinder, someone stronger, someone her late husband would have respected. Ji-hoon caught her watching. "What?" She smiled. "I was just thinking. You're smiling more." He looked genuinely surprised. "Am I?" "Yes." He glanced at Lwazi. "I suppose he's difficult to stay miserable around." That evening, Ji-hoon's lawyer arrived with urgent news. We found the witness. What witness? The driver. The one who caused your accident. Ji-hoon's expression hardened. I thought he died. He didn't. He disappeared. And now? The lawyer placed a recording device on the table. He's ready to tell the truth. Ji-hoon pressed play. A trembling male voice filled the room. I was paid to force Mr. Kang's vehicle off the bridge. I didn't know they'd try to kill him. They said it would only scare him. The recording stopped. Naledi looked horrified. Ji-hoon's hands clenched. He already knew whose name would come next. The only question was whether there was enough evidence to destroy him forever. Just then, another notification appeared on Ji-hoon's phone. It was from the chairman of the Kang Group board. Emergency meeting tomorrow. Your attendance is required. Ji-hoon stared at the message. Then, for the first time in nearly a year, he slowly pushed himself upward. His legs trembled violently. His therapists rushed forward, ready to catch him. But Ji-hoon raised one hand. No. He took one shaking step, then another. Naledi's eyes filled with tears. Lwazi jumped up and down, laughing. My friend is walking! Ji-hoon looked straight ahead, determination burning in his eyes. Tomorrow, I'm taking my company back. The boardroom fell silent the moment the doors opened. Every executive turned toward the entrance. One by one, conversations stopped. Coffee cups froze halfway to trembling lips. Kang Ji-hoon stepped inside. His movements were slow, and he leaned on a polished black cane, but he walked on his own. Gasps filled the room. That's impossible. I thought he couldn't. When did this happen? At the far end of the table, Min-suk's face drained of color. For a brief second, fear replaced his usual confidence. Then he forced a smile. Cousin, it's good to see you're recovering. Ji-hoon met his eyes without blinking. You sound disappointed. An uncomfortable silence settled over the room. The chairman cleared his throat. Mr. Kang, we're glad you could attend. I wouldn't miss today's meeting. Ji-hoon slowly took his seat. For months, decisions have been made in my absence. That ends today. Min-suk leaned back, pretending to remain calm. Perhaps you're pushing yourself too hard. Your health should come first. Ji-hoon smiled faintly. My health is improving. It's your future I'm worried about. Several board members exchanged nervous glances. Min-suk laughed. That's quite a statement. Ji-hoon nodded toward his lawyer. Play it. The lights dimmed. The recording filled the room. I was paid to force Mr. Kang's vehicle off the bridge. I didn't know they'd try to kill him. They said it would only scare him. The room erupted. What? Who paid him? Turn it back on. Before anyone could speak again, Ji-hoon's lawyer projected bank records, shell company transfers, and surveillance images onto the screen. Each piece connected to the next. Each trail led to one man. Min-suk. His confident expression disappeared. These documents are fabricated. Ji-hoon's lawyer calmly slid the originals across the table. They've already been verified by the authorities. The board members looked at Min-suk with disbelief. You tried to murder your own cousin? Min-suk slammed both hands onto the table. You don't understand. I built this company while he was lying in bed. I deserved it. Ji-hoon's voice remained calm. No, you stole it. Police officers entered the boardroom. Min-suk Kang, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, kidnapping, corporate fraud, and attempted extortion. Min-suk took one desperate step backward. You can't arrest me. Two officers placed him in handcuffs. As they led him away, he glared at Ji-hoon. This isn't over. Ji-hoon simply replied, It was over the day you underestimated a mother's honesty and a little boy's courage. The boardroom remained silent long after Min-suk disappeared. The chairman slowly stood. Mr. Kang, on behalf of the board, we apologize. Ji-hoon nodded. Then let's rebuild this company. Weeks later, Kang Group held its first public press conference since the scandal. Hundreds of journalists packed the hall. Camera flashes lit the stage. One reporter raised her hand. Mr. Kang, everyone is talking about your recovery. What gave you the strength to fight again? Ji-hoon looked toward the front row. Naledi sat beside Lwazi, who waved enthusiastically the moment their eyes met. Ji-hoon smiled. It wasn't something. It was someone. He pointed toward the little boy. Him. Every camera turned. Lwazi looked around in confusion. Me? The audience laughed warmly. Ji-hoon continued. When everyone saw a broken billionaire, he saw a friend. When everyone gave me sympathy, he gave me crayons. When everyone expected me to give up, he believed I could stand again. The room erupted into applause. Lwazi grinned proudly. I told you. After the conference, the family returned to the mansion. Life felt different. The mansion no longer echoed with silence. It echoed with laughter. Lwazi raced toy cars across the living room floor, while Ji-hoon, now walking confidently without his cane for short distances, chased him one careful step at a time. You'll never catch me, Lwazi giggled. Oh, really? Ji-hoon lunged playfully. The little boy squealed as Ji-hoon scooped him into his arms. Naledi watched from the kitchen doorway, smiling so brightly that one of the housekeepers whispered, I haven't seen this house feel like a home in years. Neither had anyone else. One evening, Ji-hoon invited Naledi to the mansion's garden after dinner. Thousands of tiny lights illuminated the trees. A soft breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers. Naledi looked around in surprise. What's all this? Ji-hoon took a slow breath. I've negotiated billion-dollar contracts. I've spoken before thousands of shareholders. But this is the hardest conversation of my life. Naledi laughed softly. You're making me nervous. So am I. He stepped closer. When you first arrived, I believed everyone wanted something from me. You asked for nothing. You protected me. You told me the truth. You reminded me who I used to be. His voice trembled with emotion. I fell in love with you long before I realized it. Naledi's eyes filled with tears. You don't owe me anything. I know. That's exactly why I love you. He slowly lowered himself onto one knee. This time, he didn't need anyone to help him. He reached into his pocket and revealed a small velvet box. Naledi Dlamini. You and Lwazi gave me back a life I thought I had lost. You gave this house laughter. You gave me hope. I can't imagine another day without the two of you. Will you marry me? Naledi covered her mouth as tears streamed down her face. Lwazi looked from one adult to the other. Mama, say yes. Everyone laughed through their tears. Naledi nodded repeatedly. Yes, yes, I will. Ji-hoon slipped the ring onto her finger before standing to embrace her. Lwazi wrapped his tiny arms around both of them. We're a family now? Ji-hoon knelt to meet his eyes. We've been a family for a long time. We're just making it official. A few months later, the wedding became one of the most talked about events in Korea. Business leaders, employees, friends, and neighbors filled the venue, not because of Ji-hoon's wealth, but because they had witnessed the extraordinary transformation of a man once consumed by anger. Instead of extravagant speeches about success, Ji-hoon stood before the guests and spoke from the heart. I spent my life believing strength meant never depending on anyone. I was wrong. The strongest people are those who choose kindness when life gives them every reason to become bitter. He looked at Naledi. You taught me that. Then he smiled at Lwazi, standing proudly in his tiny suit. And this young man reminded me that miracles don't always arrive with loud announcements. Sometimes they walk into your room carrying a crayon drawing that says, friend. Many guests wiped away tears. Over the following year, Ji-hoon established the Lwazi Foundation, providing free rehabilitation for spinal injury patients and financial support for widowed and single parents struggling to rebuild their lives. When reporters asked why he named it after a little boy, Ji-hoon simply smiled. Because every life changed by this foundation began the day one fearless child refused to see me as broken. Years later, visitors to Kang Group headquarters often noticed a framed crayon drawing hanging behind the chairman's desk. It showed two stick figures holding hands beneath one crooked word. Friend. Employees would often ask why such a simple drawing hung in the office of one of Korea's most successful billionaires. Ji-hoon always gave the same answer. That picture is worth more than everything this company owns. Because it reminded him that fortunes could be stolen, companies could be rebuilt, and bodies could slowly heal. But the pure love of a child and the unwavering honesty of a good woman had given him something money never could: a family. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with someone who believes kindness can change a life. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you think Ji-hoon would have recovered if Lwazi had never walked into his life? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until the next story, thank you for watching.